Today we have this color negative, and you can see during the development, or maybe when the film was taken out of the canister, there was some light leak basically. And I know this is not a great image, but it is an image of someone who's quite important to the family, so it's worthy of restoring as best I can. So starting with a hue saturation layer, I'm going to change from master to yellows, and I'm going to try and just query the yellow part of the image and see if I can color correct that first. Now, I'm not expecting to restore the color in that area. I'm just going to take the yellow down, try and visually match the luminance of the image. You can see if you squint, the black levels kind of getting closer. And what I'm trying to do here is just expand the range of that gradient down the bottom to include a little bit more of that orange fringe that's on the edge of that transition from the yellow to the bluish color of the image. Next, I'm going to add a color layer or a normal bitmap layer and set to color, and making sure that the color picker is current and below, so it's going to select color from both layers when I select. Then using a brush, I can pick some areas of the image on the right and paint some of those color values to the sort of more grayscale image on the left. Now when that's done, I'm going to merge that down. It's not great, not pretty, but it'll get there. And do an auto colors just to see what that does. Sometimes that actually does a pretty good job, but hasn't done very much for me this time. I have no idea why I have two color balances here, but I'm just going to use the top one. And what you can see is I'm looking at if there's too much green, I'll pull it towards magenta. If it's too blue, I'll pull it towards yellow. And you can pull those little sliders around and sort of start to reintroduce some natural color. You can see the color of the bread, loaves of bread, the rolls on the table are starting to get closer to a normal color. I'm not entirely sure what color the kitchen was painted, but I'm going to kind of let the color of the bread and the color of the things that I do know determine some of those guesses. Again, with a new levels layer, just to sort of see if I can pull a little bit more of the tone out of the mid-tones. And another color balance, just not quite sure where I'm going yet with this. Feels a little bit blue. You can see you can adjust the color just in the shadows or the mid-tones or the highlights by selecting that from that little drop down up the top. Now obviously my color painting on the left has gone wildly out. I'll fix that later. Here you go, another color layer or a bitmap layer set to color. And I'm just going to true up some of this side now that I've had a bit of a go. As you can see, it's kind of gone a bit paler again. And this kind of line in the middle is starting to bother me a bit. So using the remove tool, which you find over here on the menu, I'm going to try and remove some of that line. It's not terribly successful. Oddly, it makes it more straight, which is weird. But I kind of figure without this damage there right now, I can make some better choices on color and not be so distracted by it. You can see here that the left hand side of the image is too pale, too lifted. So I'm going to put another levels layer on, crank it quite dark, and then in the mask side of the layers, build a gradient. And now I can adjust the levels on the left a little more closely, dynamically, and then the gradient can be adjusted slightly, as well as the levels, until I'm happy with the result. As well as that, you can just get a paintbrush, because it's too dark up the top, and just paint away some of that adjustment. Now I'm pretty far from being happy with the color here, and this is a trick I try occasionally. I'll let the neural networks filter colorize, try and colorize a color image, and what you get is this. Now I'm outputting that as a separate color layer on top, and it's pretty muddy. I'll put a vibrance slider on it, adjusting just the color layer by pressing that little button at the bottom of the dialog and trying to increase the vibrance of the color just a bit. Now I can actually slide that down and just play with how much of that I want to mix in. And you can see how blue-green the image below looks once you turn that off. And I kind of feel like mixing just a little bit of that on, it's been pretty successful. Now I'm going to put another color balance on, and using masks, try to paint just a few areas to do some correction. So you can see here I've set the mask to black, pick a white paintbrush very low opacity, and I'm just painting away some of that blue cast in the right hand side of the image. Actually everywhere, by the look of it. And although the window is the whitest point of the image and crushing the levels a bit blows it out somewhat, I do think it helps the rest of the picture. So I'm going to put a black mask in here and just paint away the effect of that adjustment I just made just onto the windows. So I've brightened up the interior of the room, but I haven't really affected outside the window at all. Now this damage is still bothering me a bit, so I'm just going to try and paint some of this away. And seeing as how I'm despotting and painting, I may as well clean up the rest of the image. Alright, getting fairly close. A couple more colour adjustments. Painting in the mask, another grad, just trying to brighten up that top piece of plasterwork up there, just looked a little dark, but I only want really the top part of that image to be adjusted. So I'll find my levels. And then I'll paint into that mask with a big brush, just trying to limit the area of that effect. One thing I like to do is put a layers level on and crank it really bright, and it really shows you where some of the deficits in the correction are. So I can put a layer above or below that correction layer. Make sure we're painting on current and below only, so it ignores that color or that levels adjustment above it. And then when I select colors or paint colors, I'm not selecting those brighter colors, I'm selecting the true colors underneath. And I can turn that level layer on and off and just make sure my corrections are good. but it does tend to show up some of the problem areas pretty well. And with one last little colour layer, you can see those tiles are quite purple, so I'm selecting the grey-blue colour from the other side of the image. Same with the window frames and other little details, things like the chrome around the sink. Also, the small child standing next to the woman's got quite blue hair, so I want to select some colours from the bun, put a little bit of warmth into that hair. Although too much colour in the blacks, or the darker part of it, does not suit the image. It looks kind of weirdly orange, so I'm going to knock some of that out. Trying not to be too careful. It is a fairly low detail part of the image. And lastly, I'll just select some of the colour from the cupboards and just get rid of this slight blue cast in the top. Again, I'm only painting colour information, not affecting the grain or the pixels or the detail underneath. It might seem like a lot of painting and guesswork, but when you see the original and you see what I had to work with, I think having an image that's at least pleasing, even if the colours are not 100% accurate, is far preferable to what we started with.